Story time with Mrs. Katlin.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear little friends. Today's story is about Masjid Al-Aqsa. Do you know what Masjid Al-Aqsa is? Do you know where it is situated? Masjid Al-Aqsa is the third most sacred mosque after Masjid Al-Haram in Mecca and Masjid Al-Nabawi in Medina. It is situated in Jerusalem, and it represents one of the biggest miracles of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because 1,400 years ago, one night, it was the night of 27th of Rajab, so this year, 2020, it would correspond to 22nd of March. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took him from Mecca to Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, and then from there to heaven, where amongst other things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to tell Muslims to pray 5 times a day. So Masjid Al-Aqsa is one of the most special places on earth. Let's learn a bit more about its history, inshaAllah. Chapter 1. The Beginning. This is a true story about one of the most important and exciting masajid on earth. The story begins from the time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam, who was the first man on earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam and his wife Hawa to worship him, and when they were put on earth, Adam was told to build masajid so the people would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in them. The first masjid on earth was the Kaaba in Mecca. The Kaaba was first built by Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and after many hundreds of years, when people forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it lay in ruins. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam to remind people to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail alayhi salam rebuilt the Kaaba in Mecca. Prophet Ismail and his mother were the first people to live in Mecca after a long time. They arrived in the valley when Ismail was a baby, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with a well of Zamzam, which still exists today. The second masjid built on earth was Masjid Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, which is in a land called Palestine. This was also built first by Prophet Adam alayhi salam. Palestine is a blessed land, and many prophets and pious people have lived there for thousands of years. Prophet Adam alayhi salam built Masjid Al-Aqsa 40 years after he first built the Kaaba in Mecca. This makes Masjid Al-Aqsa very important for Muslims, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered for it to be built by the very first man he put on earth. The distance from the Kaaba to Masjid Al-Aqsa is about 1,234 kilometers. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Subhanallah. Chapter 2. The time of the prophets. Many different types of people have lived in Jerusalem in the past thousands of years. These people have followed different religions, and they included Jewish people, Christians, and Muslims. The name Palestine comes from the people of Canaan and the people of Palestine who lived in the land for centuries. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. So Prophet Ibrahim was born in a small town called Ur, in a land which is now called Iraq. He was a great prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his two sons, Ishaq alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam, were also prophets. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was wise and brave, and he taught everyone to believe in the one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The people of Ur worshipped idols, and they became angry when they heard Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ibrahim's message. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him from the anger of the people and guided him. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam left Ur and he traveled around in the surrounding lands. He then traveled to Jerusalem and started to live in the blessed land. He found Masjid Al-Aqsa in ruins and he rebuilt it with his son Ishaq alayhi salam. After many years, Ibrahim alayhi salam passed away, leaving his son Ishaq in Jerusalem and his son Ismail in Mecca. The descendants of Ishaq alayhi salam were the Jewish people, and the descendants of Ismail alayhi salam were the Muslims. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Prophet Ishaq alayhi salam took care of Masjid Al-Aqsa during his life. He had a son called Yaqub alayhi salam. Yaqub had 13 children, and one of them was called Yusuf alayhi salam, who Allah blessed with many good virtues, and he was a very, very handsome boy. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the story of Yusuf alayhi salam because there are many lessons for us to learn from it. Yaqub alayhi salam loved Yusuf alayhi salam very much because he was kind, honest, and a very good son. Sadly, Prophet Yusuf's brothers were envious of him, and they plotted and planned to drive Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam away. One day, they took him out to play with them, and they threw him down into a well. Yusuf's brothers returned home and told their father that a wolf had eaten Yusuf alayhi salam. Their father Yaqub alayhi salam did not believe them, and he prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect Yusuf alayhi salam. In the well, Yusuf alayhi salam was very scared and he began to cry. A caravan was passing by on the way to Egypt, and when the people heard the cry of a little boy coming from the well, they stopped and took him out. They decided to take Yusuf alayhi salam with them to Egypt. After many years, when Yusuf alayhi salam was a grown man, he became the governor of Egypt. At the same time, there was a famine in Palestine, and his brothers traveled all the way to Egypt to look for some food. They were told only the governor can sell the corn. They went to the governor, and when Yusuf alayhi salam saw them, he recognized them. However, the brothers did not know that the governor was Yusuf alayhi salam, their brother who they had thrown in the well. Yusuf alayhi salam was very happy to see his brothers after so many years. However, he did not tell them straight away that he was Yusuf. After a few visits by his brothers, Yusuf alayhi salam finally told them who he was and reminded them about what they had done to him when he was a child. The brothers became worried, but Yusuf alayhi salam was a good person and a prophet, and he did not want to harm them at all. He forgave them for what they did and gave them his shirt, told them to take it to their father Yaqub alayhi salam, who was still in Palestine. Yaqub alayhi salam was now a very old man and blind. The brothers took the shirt back and put it on their father's face, as Yusuf alayhi salam asked them to. And with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will, Yaqub alayhi salam was able to see again. Subhanallah. Yaqub alayhi salam and his children all left Palestine and moved to Egypt to be with Yusuf alayhi salam. Masjid Al-Aqsa was now left alone. As years passed by, the masjid became neglected because people started to forget about it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The masjid then started to crumble and fall down. After many years, the masjid became completely destroyed. Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Many hundreds of years after the time of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down Prophet Musa alayhi salam in Egypt. Musa alayhi salam came to save the descendants of Yaqub alayhi salam, who were treated very badly by the ruler of Egypt, who was called the Fir'aun. The descendants of Yaqub alayhi salam were called Banu Israel, or the children of Israel. Banu Israel were being persecuted by the Fir'aun, who was a cruel and harsh leader. Musa alayhi salam took them out of Egypt in a miraculous journey across the sea. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped Musa alayhi salam and the Banu Israel to cross the sea by parting the water. The Banu Israel crossed safely by the army of but the army of Fir'aun, which chased after them, drowned in the water. Musa alayhi salam took the Banu Israel back towards Palestine. But there were other people living there, and the Banu Israel did not want to fight them, so they wandered in the desert for years. Musa alayhi salam then passed away. The Banu Israel spent around 40 years in the desert. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala united them and brought them to the outskirts of Jerusalem. At this time, there was a brave young boy called Dawood who was with them. When the Banu Israel fought a battle with the people living in Jerusalem, the boy Dawood led them to victory. Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Dawood alayhi salam great strength, and he was very brave. Dawood alayhi salam was also very wise and had great skills. After becoming the leader in Jerusalem, he started rebuilding the Masjid Al-Aqsa, which was in ruins. Dawood alayhi salam used to pray in the compound of Al-Aqsa sanctuary while the masjid was being constructed. The Quran informs us that Dawood alayhi salam had a beautiful voice, and when he used to pray, the birds used to recite after him, subhanallah. However, Dawood alayhi salam did not finish building the masjid before he passed away. His son, Sulaiman, who was also a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, continued to build the masjid until it was complete. Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam. Sulaiman alayhi salam was a great servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with amazing powers. Allah gave him the ability to talk to animals, birds, and insects. He could also make all the animals and jinns work for him. Subhanallah. He was also very wise and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sulaiman's alayhi salam love for Masjid Al-Aqsa was great, and he commanded the jinns to help him complete the building of the masjid, which was started by his father Dawood alayhi salam. Other prophets. There are many other prophets who lived nearby, prayed in and took care of Masjid Al-Aqsa. Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam was the Imam of Masjid Al-Aqsa. The mother of Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Maryam, used to meditate next to Masjid Al-Aqsa, and the son of Zakaria alayhi salam, Prophet Yahya alayhi salam, also lived in Jerusalem. All these great prophets, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them, lived in and around Jerusalem, and they all had a special concern for Masjid Al-Aqsa. So these prophets taught us how important it is for us to take care of this great and beautiful masjid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Chapter 3. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam to the world, Masjid Al-Aqsa was again in ruins. It was destroyed 70 years after the Prophet Isa alayhi salam was taken up to heaven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Romans came to Jerusalem and they destroyed the whole city. They demolished Masjid Al-Aqsa and only the walls surrounding it were left standing. The Jewish people who used to pray there were told that they could not come into the city anymore. This was a very difficult time for them. Masjid Al-Aqsa stayed like this until the coming of the final prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, called Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Qibla. From the very beginning, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Muslims in Mecca used to pray facing Jerusalem. SubhanAllah, did you know that? This was very important because it showed the Muslims the importance and special position of Jerusalem. Muslims carried on facing Jerusalem in their prayers throughout the whole period the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Mecca. This was around 12 years. After the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam moved to Medina, the Muslims continued facing Jerusalem in prayers for another 18 months. The Muslims changed the direction of Qibla from Jerusalem to the Kaaba in Mecca after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded it. From then on, Muslims started facing Mecca in their prayers. But Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed his followers that although the Qibla has changed, it does not mean the importance of Jerusalem had reduced. Quran. The Quran talks about Jerusalem in many places and the importance of this great city. Jerusalem is holy to Muslims because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed the city and the long land around it. The most important place in Jerusalem is the land of Masjid Al-Aqsa. The Quran also says, "Limitless in His glory is Allah, who transported His servant by night from the sacred masjid in Mecca to Masjid Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, whose surroundings Allah has blessed, so that Allah might show him some of Allah's signs. Indeed, Allah alone is the one who hears all and sees all." So that is from Surah Al-Isra, so 17, it's Ayah 1. It is very important to remember that Masjid Al-Aqsa is mentioned in the Quran And this means Muslims all over the world must take care of Masjid Al-Aqsa, and if possible, they must visit it. Al-Isra. One of the most fantastic and brilliant events that happened to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took him from Mecca to Jerusalem and afterwards to the heavens in one night. This great journey from Mecca to Jerusalem by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was on a special animal called Buraq, and this journey is called Al-Isra. Buraq traveled at high speeds and from Mecca to Jerusalem took less than 1 second. One of the reasons the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taken to Jerusalem was to remind everyone about the first 2 masajid built on earth. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was blessed with many things on this night, and one special blessing was that he prayed in Masjid Al-Aqsa. This was no ordinary prayer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought together every single prophet he ever sent and allowed them to pray behind the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, including Prophets Ibrahim, Musa, Dawood, Sulaiman, and Isa alayhim salam. This was an amazing event which Muslims should feel proud of, and acknowledge of this journey should help us feel more love for Masjid Al-Aqsa. Love for Masjid Al-Aqsa. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had great love for Masjid Al-Aqsa, and he used to remind his companions about it. He told them of the need to get Masjid Al-Aqsa under Muslim control. He told them how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed the area around Masjid Al-Aqsa, and he also encouraged people to go and visit Masjid Al-Aqsa and pray there. He specially asked people to make sure the masjid is safe and secure, and he even encouraged people to start their Hajj and Umrah from Masjid Al-Aqsa. Those people who pray in Masjid Al-Aqsa will gain more rewards than for praying in any other masjid on earth apart from the Masjid Al-Haram in Mecca and Masjid Nabawi in Medina. All the teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were taken seriously by the companions, and they tried their best to do what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had advised them. It was about 6 years after the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the leader of the Muslims, who at the time was Umar radiallahu anhu, went to Jerusalem and brought Masjid Al-Aqsa under Muslim rule. Chapter 4. The time of Islamic rule. From the time Muslims arrived in Jerusalem, they started to build beautiful masajid in the Al-Aqsa sanctuary. The leader of the Muslims at the time was Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, and he built a beautiful and grand masjid that was big enough for over 10,000 people to pray in. Subhanallah. Later on, another great leader called Abdul Malik ibn Marwan built one of the most beautiful buildings in the world called the Dome of the Rock. In Arabic, it is known as the Qubbat as-Sakhra, and you can still see today when you visit Jerusalem. The Dome of the Rock has a gold dome and walls with fantastic blue colored tiles on the outside. Another great Muslim leader called Sulaiman the Magnificent ordered that Surah Yasin from the Holy Quran be written around the Dome of the Rock. Many other Muslims built beautiful madrasas, places of worship, water wells, and places of resting in the Al-Aqsa sanctuary. From the time Muslims liberated Jerusalem, the whole area became a place of peace and justice. The Al-Aqsa Masjid became a great center of learning, and scholars came from all over the world to pray at Al-Aqsa and to study and teach there. Crusaders take over Masjid Al-Aqsa. However, in 1099, an army of Christians from Europe called the Crusaders attacked Jerusalem, and after fighting for 5 weeks, they took over Jerusalem. The Crusaders were violent and killed over 70,000 Muslim men, women, and children in Jerusalem. The Crusaders stole gold, furniture, and beautiful ornaments from Al-Aqsa Masjid and the Dome of the Rock. The Crusaders placed a golden cross on the top of the Dome of the Rock. While the Crusaders were in Jerusalem, other Muslims outside Jerusalem began to think of how to defeat them and to win back Jerusalem. A great leader called Nuruddin had a beautiful mimbar built for Masjid Al-Aqsa. But Nuruddin died very young before he could free Jerusalem. Salahuddin became the new leader who gathered the Muslims together and led a battle against the Crusaders. In 1185, Salahuddin defeated the Crusaders and Jerusalem was free once again. The beautiful mimbar built by Nuruddin was placed in the Al-Aqsa Masjid by Salahuddin. Unfortunately, this mimbar was burnt down by an Israeli in 1969, and it took Muslims over 20 years to replace and restore it. Salahuddin was one of the greatest generals in history. He was brave, courageous, and generous. When he took over Jerusalem, he did not kill or imprison the Crusaders. He let them go free and even helped them with the cost of traveling back to Europe. Chapter 5. Masjid Al-Aqsa today. During the 700-year period after Salahuddin freed Jerusalem, it was a beautiful and peaceful place. Masjid Al-Aqsa had many visitors from all over the world. However, everything changed in 1918 when Britain took over Jerusalem from the Muslim rulers and began to control Palestine. After this, a lot of Jewish people started coming to Palestine as they were being persecuted in other places in the world. The Palestinians were happy to help them, but after a few years, thousands of Jewish people came to Palestine and wanted to take the land away from the Palestinians. The Palestinians did not want to leave their land because it belonged to them, and they had lived there for hundreds of years. Soon, battles started to take place between the Palestinians and the Jewish people. The Jewish people had a stronger army, and they soon took over most of the Palestinian land. They then changed the name of the land from Palestine to Israel in the year 1948. Later, in 1967, another battle took place and the Israeli people took over Masjid Al-Aqsa and started to occupy all of Jerusalem. Since the occupation, the Masjid Al-Aqsa began, the Palestinian people have been worried that the Israelis may try to destroy Masjid Al-Aqsa. Palestinians love Masjid Al-Aqsa just as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ advised them to, and just as all Muslims around the world should. Palestinians trying to pray in Masjid Al-Aqsa are stopped from going there. Many Palestinians are kept behind a big wall which Israel has built and this makes it impossible for them to go to Jerusalem and pray in Masjid Al-Aqsa. The situation is very hard for Palestinians, and they need help to keep Masjid Al-Aqsa safe from Israel. Masjid Al-Aqsa was built by Adam alayhi salam at the beginning. It was rebuilt thousands of years later by Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and his son Ishaq alayhi salam. Throughout the years, many prophets and pious people have lived in Jerusalem and prayed in Masjid Al-Aqsa. This is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed this very special land. Masjid Al-Aqsa is the third holiest masjid on earth, and all Muslims should love it and visit it whenever they can, as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised us to. It's important to remember Palestine and to pray for Masjid Al-Aqsa to be free.
Story time with Mrs. Caitlin.